watch, you don't need to look at me. I'm Tony Sturgeon, 7th grade English teacher on the Globetrotter team. I've been running camps since Fisher Junior High opened. So this is my 26th year of teaching, so 24 in this building. Been going to camp since I was an instructional assistant. I'll let other people who wants to go next.
I'm Dave Brovicast, English teacher for the Heroes team. I've been helping with camp. I have no idea how long. A long time.
Kevin Stump, social studies for the Stars team. Started teaching here in 2005. I've gone every year except for last year that we've gone. And I've been involved with camp as a director maybe 10 years. But involved with camp since I've gone.
I'm Mike Fossil. I've been in charge of camp for 26 years.
I'm Deb Kletch, Science Stars team. I've been involved with camp since I've been here too. So.
We've been doing this a long time, love the program. But before we actually get into some specifics, I just want to point out real quick, if you're unaware, on the Fisher Junior High website, there is a student life section, and then there is a Camp Tecumseh section. That is a quick and easy place to go to get some basic information over these upcoming days. Most of us also all have a camp section and information on our Canvas pages, but this can be accessed by you anywhere. Much of the details and things like that we're going to mention can be accessed right here. So, like we're going to show you a schedule later, and we'll have descriptions of lessons. You can read all of those on your own time in that book. And then we also have basic information we'll be covering, but there are links to an online version of the permission slip, the cabin parent form, which we've got paper copies of tonight, we'll talk about later. And then for those of you that needed the background check, later we'll add, we'll add some links to Camp Tecumseh. We're going to talk about food allergies later today, and some other information. This is where you can go to find that information. It's just the student life section on the FGH website. But I want to make sure you're aware that exists. We'll start with the real basics. In case you're unaware, we split the teams. The Heroes, everybody on the Heroes team goes on Monday through Wednesday. That's April 17th to the 19th. That's 2 weeks after spring break. So we go on spring break, come back, have school for a week, and then we go to camp. Half of the Stars will be going during that time. Those with the last names A through K. Everybody else goes the second half of the week. So all of the Globetrotter team, and then the Stars with last names L through Z. So that's who's going and when they are going. It is located, if you're unaware, it is technically in the town of Brookston, Indiana, which is tiny, situated really between Brookston, at least downtown Brookston. They have a stoplight, an actual one, not like the town I lived in, just had a flashing one. They have a real stoplight. And Delphi, which is gigantic. It's the county seat of Carroll County. It's where I went to high school. It is 3,500 people. It's huge. I graduated with 99 kids. So it is right there, just a little north of Lafayette. So it takes about an hour and 40 minutes by bus to get up to camp. So that's where we're taking. As you probably know, but we always want to run through it, is at $150 to attend camp. That covers every single cost that we have. That is the transportation cost that we have to pay. That pays for all of the food, the lodging, every supply, all of that. The money is due by March 30th. That's kind of the week before spring break. We'll talk about parent chaperones. We've had some issues with some finances in the district over the last year or two. So for the first time, we have to charge parents to go. We only get charged from camp half the price for what it costs a student to attend. So that's kind of what we're asking you to pay. You don't need to pay for the supplies and the transportation. If you are using the bus, you just get a free bus ride if you want. But we're asking you to pay for for your cost at camp, which they bill us half price. Can we pay by cash? Can we pay by check made out of Fisher Junior High? Or you can use the e-funds that exist.
Sturgeon, hold on. For the parent chaperones, we've gotten quite a few of you that have volunteered already, and those that have, we thank you for that. The needing to charge for parents to go, like you mentioned, is a new thing for us. So if you've already sent in your form, I'll be in contact with you about that. We are asking, just to make it easy for Mrs. Clutch, who deals with all the money, for the parents to not use e-funds. Just accounting wise, it's just helpful for her to know which students have paid and parents have paid. So if you could send in cash or check to, you can send it right to me. You can give it to Sturgeon or Broviac if you're on a Globetrotter Hero team. But if the parents could avoid using the e-funds, it'll just help accounting-wise for Mrs. Clutch to keep the parents and the kids' payments separate.
It's our first year using e-funds, so it's newer for us. A little different accounting. All right, so basic premise, what is camp? So our district's been going to camp in some form or another for over 40 years. I'm not gonna get into the whole history of it, but in the last 25, 30, it really developed into an outdoor education program. It's why we go in 7th grade, because it's a life science curriculum, and it is a very science and math heavy curriculum. And so that's kind of the idea behind it. As you'll see though, there is language arts, there is social studies, there's art, and actually PE standards that are all covered when we go. But we do things at camp that we can't do here. You know, Mrs. Clutch will talk about some of the lessons. They're impossible to do. And it's hands-on actual learning as opposed to sitting and reading about it in a book and sitting at a lab table. They've got over 224 acres to roam around in. We tell the kids they're gonna be walking quite a bit. Mr. Stump shows the kids a picture of his first half day at camp when he hit like just 12,000 steps.
20,000.
What was it?
20,000
steps, and that was a half day. I tell them we normally hit 35, 40,000 steps, and we don't walk as much as the kids do. They're out there. They're also not learning in giant classes of 25, 30 kids. They're with a group of 6 to 8 different kids. They are being taught by high school students that we have trained for over a month and taken to camp and gone through all these lessons with. We call them counselors because it's camp, so there are camp counselors. And they will be teaching the lessons to the kids while they are out and about over the course of camp. Mr. Foster, you want to talk about the counselors?
Yeah, our tradition has been we've always used high school counselors, sophomores through seniors. We like to get them as a sophomore because then we have them 3 years. COVID has wreaked havoc on us. Last year, every one of our counselors had never been a counselor before. And we thought that was going to be a problem. Instead, we had a fantastic camp experience, probably the very best square dancing we ever had. And I know some of you cannot believe this, but our counselors, because of our counselors' enthusiasm for square dancing, none of our 7th graders set out a square dancing. You have not yet lived until you've seen 350 people square dancing. Led by us, but mainly led by counselors. Last year, our normal square dance counselor, who's 104, couldn't make it, so I was the square dance caller, and that was horrific. But it worked out great because our counselors are so enthusiastic. This year, we're at a little bit different problem. Our sophomores will be their first time interviewing. They didn't go to camp. They lost it due to COVID. But at least we will have 71 counselors who have been a counselor before, so we are automatically farther ahead than last year. These kids are not the same kid. You take a look at your kids, compare them to the kids that you see in the rest of the junior high, and you go, my kid is not like any other kid. Our counselors, you look at them in group and go, nope, they are not the same kid. We do that on purpose because our kids aren't the same. We do a lot of matching on purpose. Counselors are in groups of 2. We do that, if you want to know the truth, we get tired of cutting high school kids. And so we have wonderful kids that come out. We used to cut. It was easier to get into Harvard than it was to be a counselor for us, I think. I think one year our selection rate was about 35%. So we solved that problem when we said, why would we possibly do that? So we doubled up all the groups, so we took more kids that deserved to go. But these kids, when we interview, we have to interview them, and all of us interview differently. I flinch test kids. I ask them terrible questions. But anyway, but the interview process is fun. They get nervous for it. I'm not as mean as some people, Mr. Sturgeon, who shows them a picture of a severed hand and explains to them that this happened at camp, and what would you do? One kid that we hired said, I would run away. I said, I'd be right beside you. You know? But anyway, our counselors, oh my God, that was my daughter's year. And the arm you see above, that's Jessica Graham. She was my first student of the year 26 years ago. I'm not dating the pictures. All right, but anyway. All right, good.
All right, so what are the counselors doing? This is Clutch going to talk to you about some of the main focus on these lessons. You're gonna see that they have these booklets. If you look in their hands, they spend most of their time in these groups with these counselors and with their study group through the day. And we'll walk you through a schedule here a little bit later, but they spend most of the time in these study groups working on lessons that are going to be a grade in their science, English, math, and social studies classes. So it is it's technically a field trip, but it is a curricular field trip because of the variety of standards that are being met, as well as the lessons that they're going to do. And they do a lot of lessons.
So several years ago, they tasked me with, can we make camp meet as many standards as possible in an outdoor environment we can't do here? So I tallied it up, and last year we realized we cover 75 standards in 2.5 days between English, science, social studies, and math. There's no regular school day that covers that much, ever. Our kids are outside, they're walking around, they're looking at trees, they're gathering moss, they're looking for tardigrades, even though Mr. Stump will tell you those are fake. We take our digital microscopes up so that they can find out what they have up there. Because we can go out in our creek that goes off Cumberland Road and maybe find a dragonfly larva or something. But we go up there and they'll gather it, and they're so excited of the diversity they can find. We do a water study in 3 different locations to find out what the healthiest place is between the lake, the waterfall area, and just the creek that runs by. They do stream studies, they do tree studies that build on the 120 trees we have out in the front of the building here. They look at plot studies, and then we're also helping camp look at what has happened since they had straight wind damage, what's coming back and why. So it's real science that we cannot do here. They go out and they get dirty. And some of them ask me, like, we have to touch the dirt. Yes, you're going to sit in the grass. You might touch a leaf. It's okay. You're going to pull moss. You're going to look at it under the microscope and see what you can find. They'll make taxonomic keys. They'll go up to it's the farm, right? The little petting area. Yeah, the farm, and see actual real animals there. Not to mention that it's really funny when they're like, did you know the squirrels are running around and there's birds flying over and there's bald eagles that nest that we can see from where they hike to. So they get to experience all of that, which is really hard to find in fishers at this point. They're also going to look at erosion and talk about different ways to help camp solve it. Camp has instituted 3 of the ideas we have had since pre-COVID for solving some of their erosion problems. So the kids make a difference too, and they do like to see that. When they come back as counselors, like, hey, we thought of that idea, and now they've done it. So that helps quite a bit. They're going to do velocity whenever they are going down the black hole. And they don't do all of the lessons. They get to choose which ones they might be a little bit more interested in. So they get to choose between the 14 lessons. That's why it will say may as opposed to will. You want to handle that, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'll as you read through, and again, these are on that thing you look at on the website to get a little bit more info. But you'll see some that students will, students may. There are some lessons we require every group to do. And then there are lessons that the group, the kids and the counselors will look at together and go, hey, what do you want to do? What sounds fun to you? What sounds better? There are different levels of lessons. Some are pretty easy to accomplish. Kind of, you ever had a kid who's gotten the project from a teacher where they get 10 options and they have to accrue 8 points, and like, this is a 4-point option, or you can do 4 1-point options. It's kind of like that. But that way the kids and the counselors have some say also in what they are doing up at camp. So, I mean, there's some writing that gets done. The difficult lessons are done kind of in a group. So kids who are struggling with it, they're working together to do it. And then there are some individual things. Obviously, if you have to do some writing, you're writing by yourself. You know, there are social studies lessons. They're going to learn how to use a compass. They're going to potentially go geocache using some GPSs that we have and find things. They're going to learn about the history of Tecumseh himself. So we have a variety of different lessons that all get incorporated throughout the course of the days that the counselors will be teaching. And that's what we spend our time on, training the counselors. They learn how to teach these lessons, the best methods of instructions. That also kind of goes together when we're pairing our counselors up. You know, some have strength in one area, some have strength in another, so together they make a perfect, a team to lead. So I'll show you, they're not just doing the lessons, they're out and about doing different things at camp. So Ms. Brovicast is going to talk about some of the special things that we do. I will say, our program is unique. There's literally no other school in the world that does what we do. Even Riverside and Hidge and Fall Creek, who all go to camp, none of us run camp the exact same way. We have some different activities. We definitely have different lessons that we do. You know, some go in the fall, some go in the spring, so time plays a role in that. But as we always tell the kids, if you've been to camp to come to summer camp, you still haven't done ours. The only thing you would have done is maybe some of these special activities.
Or the hiking.
And hiking, yes, you have walked.
So aside from them hiking and spending time out there, there's a number of activities that they will be doing in their groups. One of those being canoeing, where they actually get to go out on the water, and they will be going into a group of 2 to 3 and canoeing. We do that in all weathers. Sometimes it's nice and sunny and 80 degrees. Sometimes it's 40 degrees and the wind is blowing sideways. We learn to go through all of it. They get stronger, they get better. For a lot of them, it's their first time ever being out in a boat. There are life jackets. Those kids who are deathly afraid of water, they can stay on the side and cheer on. There are always groups that are over there to the side, so it is not a thing that's going to be a big deal. If they don't want to get into the water with others, it's not a big thing from there at all. From there, our next one is going to be...
Except I will say, this is hilarious to watch kids try to canoe. Oh, they're adorable. I love to go and mock, because it is a riot, as they're paddling against each other, and they try to turn and avoid the bank of the lake. It is so much fun.
I will add, if you are a parent going, you may go down and either watch kid or participate with kid, depending on how kid feels about it. But you are more than welcome to go out there at the same time and paddle, or you can go out there on your own or go out there with another parent. That way you can get up close pictures. It is up to you, but yeah, you are welcome to also go out there and canoe and enjoy it too. One of the other options we have is going to be the rock climbing or wall climbing. We have an indoor and an outdoor one depending on weather. As long as weather is good, we will be doing the outdoor one. It is bigger, slightly more fun. If the weather is not as good, then they have an indoor one where it is protected from the weather. It's not quite as tall, but you're not going to get blown off by wind. There are multiple different levels they get a chance to climb up. As I tell my kids, there's the easy, the medium, and then the squirrel, because you basically have to scamper up the side of it. It is quite hard to do. And it's usually our smallest, most petite kids tend to be able to fly up the side of that thing, and it is incredibly impressive. And the next, I'm sure I'll be attacked, but there's going to be talking about balloon flying here in a second. If you look above in that top corner, you'll see one of the balloons the kids make, and they fly these balloons across this big open field over the trees. The rock climbing is real close to where that is, and so oftentimes as they're rock climbing, you can see the balloons going by at the same time, and it's pretty cool. I tell my students, if you're good enough at being able to fly your balloons, you can try to hit the kids on the wall, but they don't understand how physics and wind current, there's no way that's going to happen, but it gives them something to aim for. This is the black hole, which is this sledding system we have set up, where it is 2 of these long industrial tubes that go down a hill and then ends out next to this little river area.
That's my daughter.
Who's now married.
26.
Yeah.
Wow.
To tell the difference, she just texted me a picture of a Hormel chili beer and went, "Dad."
I was her teacher. We've been doing this a long time. But they have the black hole, and so this is where some of our science and math will come in. They're going to have to figure out the velocity, big fancy words, racing each other, trying to see whether weight plays an important part of how fast you're going to be going down the hill. And so there's a whole bunch of this other mathy stuff. I don't know. I do the Englishy things. And so as they go down the hill and racing, a lot of it is because the teachers will join in. If you're on the STARS team, that's one of Jansen's favorite things to do. Is one of the few times Jansen trash talks, and he will go down the side of that and race the kids. And it's same thing. Parents, if you don't mind confined areas and going really quickly on a small sled, you are more than welcome to participate in that also and race your kid. You are also more than welcome to trash talk. This would be the balloon flying that they get a chance to do. So as I break it to my kids, You're not going up in the balloon.
No, no, no.
But we tell the kids they're in the balloon.
We convince the kid there's a shadow of a kid inside the tissue paper balloon.
Like you get a small kid, get them in, and they'll lift them up. They believe it to some degree.
Apparently, I've been telling my kids wrong.
No, I.
It just started this
You
year.
not done that one? Yeah.
No.
So we noticed the shadow in Fossil
I wanna
Cave.
go back
It's
and do my
there's a
talk.
kid
Yeah.
in that balloon. Can you see? Like, oh yeah.
Another reminder why I teach you math.
So they will be making a tissue paper balloon one of the evenings. They work as a group, and so they have to learn how the weight distribution with the tissue paper and the glue, so it's not all glompy onto one area. You have to make sure that it is closed up so the heat can be contained. From there, they're going to try and figure out wind direction, try to see how many kids you can hit climbing walls. Again, science. And then they're going to write about how much fun it was to try and hit kids with tissue paper. We fly them using a large barn heater, which apparently fire does come out of the end of it on occasion. Sometimes the balloons,
There's always fire that's there. That's how it is.
they catch on fire on occasion. We have a fire extinguisher
To catch fire.
now because apparently sometimes some teachers tend to set them on fire more often than others.
We now have a water fire extinguisher that people are in charge of when Brovicast is flying balloons. After one caught on fire and landed on the camp outdoor education director.
Hold on. Did he chase the balloon?
No, because he's a cross-country coach and that's too much for him.
Who chased the balloon?
62-year-old man with a bad knee.
That's right.
I wanted to wait till it landed. I wanted a challenge. So,
Was that the last balloon you burnt on that session?
that I remember that there's photographic proof of.
I don't have the pictures on this slide.
That's awful. I'm so sorry there's no photographic evidence. So for all I know, you're full of lies. So they will get a chance to fly the balloons, which is one of our fun activities. We will have a whole bunch of pictures. What you see here is one of the joys of camp, what we tell parents, is you get to see kids be a kid. 7th graders are caught between trying to be an adult and trying to be in elementary, and they can't figure out where they want to be. At camp, they embrace being a kid. And there is nothing like watching a group of 13-year-olds run underneath a balloon and think if they flap their arms hard enough, the balloon will get lift. And so we take pictures of them in one group after another, runs after the balloon, flapping as hard as they can, while we keep yelling, "We think we see it rising!" And so it is that joy of watching kids just have fun. And balloons is one of those big areas where you wouldn't think it until you see them out there and the giggling and the running and the having fun. And it's a big part of what makes camp camp. Oh yeah, and then our actual square dancing. And so this is,
Is that where you hurt your knee?
No.
No.
So
That was 26 years ago or so.
yeah, that would be sturgeon on the ground, fossil on the ground there.
I'm standing in front like a normal dude.
So this would be our version of square dancing whenever we tell the kids. Originally, this is where they get upset and they're like, square dancing, until they actually get out there and see square dancing happening, which is inspired by teachers, led by the high school kids. And when you have all of these high school leaders out there having fun and dancing, kids don't sit out. It's one of those things where we tell them, you can, just no one does. Just like you can sit out at Disney World, just no one does. And same thing here. If you are a parent who goes, this is where you want to have a camera, because you are going to watch your kid dancing and laughing and running around and having fun, and they are going to be up there and spinning and sweating and exhausted and having every bit of fun that you could possibly imagine, and they are going to be embarrassed, and there is not a single phone filming a TikTok dance as far as you can see, and it is awesome. One of the evenings, we have a professional storyteller come in, Mr. Jackson, who I believe was the one who sort of started camp like 40 years ago.
Form, yes.
And so way back for HSE, he was one that started it, and so he has stories that he tells one of the evenings. He brings in props, and the kids get to sit around and listen to all of those stories. And there are memorable things that will happen that we bring up during class that refer back to them. And so it is awesome. And then the other night, we have skits, which are led by the teachers and the counselors. And this is where we go through, is the second night where we entertain. And a lot of this comes down to the kids seeing their leaders, whether it be the adults or whether it be the counselors, not being self-conscious of what we do, putting ourselves out there, doing embarrassing things, and being that leading by example. And so a lot of these skits will be these high school kids performing and just embracing being a kid also. For our high school kids, this is sort of their last time to be a kid, because they're big sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and they can't really be a kid until they're hanging around with 7th graders, and then they kind of get to embrace that kid side of the world. And that's where counseling and this whole idea of the skits comes in, and it allows them to embrace that, and this is what pulls the kids in. And this is for the second night. This is the big finale. And there are things that happen that, if you see, might give you nightmares. So what do? A lot. This just gives you an idea of the activities. I had my kids ask me, so how many hikes do we go on? And I told them 3. There's just a lot of breaks. You have a hike on Monday, a hike on Tuesday, and a hike on Wednesday. You just pause for some meals and stuff like that, but it's basically 3 long hikes with a whole bunch of activities that happen while you're out there moving around. They are going to be exhausted at the end of those 3 days. If you are riding the bus up, enjoy the bus ride home, because they sleep, and it is great. They have their big puffy blanket right there next to them, and they'll usually go, "Can we?" We go, "Yes, yes you can." And it is a nice, quiet hour-and-a-half ride back, because 3 days of them out running around in the woods apparently is a little tiring for them.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through everything, but I want to hit it, because a lot of people feel like, what are they doing? How is their time being obligated? The times on the screen are a little off, because this is pre our flip. But the one online has the exact times. But you know, they get here in the morning. They can ride the bus to school if they want. But most parents drop them off, and we get up to camp, and they'll eat a sack lunch, meet their group, meet their counselors, and then they go out and work for about 4 hours out with their study groups, get to know them. And the groups are made up, they're mixed gender, they're mixed teams. We don't split like Globetrotters and Stars or Heroes and Stars. And they're just out working together in these groups for about 4 hours. They will be scheduled into those times to canoe and to climb Mount Wood and do the black hole, because those are things camp runs for us. And so we have them scheduled into them over the course of those 3 days. At the end of that work time, they come back and we give them like a little, we call it rec time. It's basically a giant recess. There's a huge field where the Mount Wood is that you saw the picture of, and where we fly the balloons. And there's gaga pits and tetherball and foursquare and the beach volleyball and carpet ball. There's soccer goals in a big field. Some kids will throw footballs around. Some are thoroughly exhausted, just sit and talk to a friend for the 45 minutes. There is what we call the trading post, which does sell, Camp Tecumseh sells items like hats and t-shirts and things. And they do sell it's the only time the kids can get something like a candy bar. They do have those in there that they can purchase. So parents will ask, do I need to send money with my kid? You do not. If they may want to purchase at the trading post, then they can, but that's not a requirement. Everything else is taken care of. But there is an opportunity to make purchases during that rec time. And then we all come together and eat dinner together. We'll talk about meals here in a little bit. But we all eat dinner in a gigantic, and actually this year, camp has been building new things, and one of the things they built is a brand new gigantic dining hall. So, I've been told, we will probably be the first school to use that dining hall. It's not going to be ready, I believe, when Riverside is there, but it should be ready, or will be ready for us. So, but we all eat meals together, and then, like Mr. Brovicast mentioned, we split half the groups up. And half of them square dance the first night, half of them make their balloons. And then we all come together for Mr. Jackson's stories. Then they go back to their cabins. We'll talk about cabins here in a little bit. They go back to their cabins. We get lights out at 11 o'clock. And there's a parent in every cabin. And the parents do attendance. Teachers go around and check. Teachers go back and follow up again. Teachers are out and about making sure things are kind of quiet. We really have issues in cabins. And then they're asleep. We go in and wake them up. And we will wake them up. We don't leave the teachers will go in and wait. Some parents are really good. Some parents thoroughly enjoy it. But we wake them up 7 o'clock, which used to be kind of a little bit of sleeping in for them when we started school at 7:30. Now they're groaning. They're like, oh, it's so early. And we eat breakfast together. They go out and work for hours. Come back, we eat lunch together. They have a little recess rec time right after lunch. Trading post is open again. go out, work for about 3-4 more hours, come back, eat dinner. They flip-flop, so if they did spring dance the night before, they do that night. Other group makes their balloons, get together as a large, gigantic group with everybody, watch the skits, go to bed, wake them up the next morning earlier, 6:30, because we got to leave earlier. And then they have their breakfast, go out, finish up their lessons, come back and eat lunch, and then walk out of lunch and get on the bus and come back. The buses that bring up the Globetrotters will take, and the half the stars will take home the heroes and the other half of the stars. They're back at school by 2:15. So they can sit in the cafeteria during that time if they need to ride the bus home, or you can be here to pick them up, or make arrangements for somebody else to pick them up. They can go home when they get back from camp, and then they will just sleep for the rest of that night. So that's kind of the general schedule. Again, it is online. You can look at it a little more closely. But there's always some questions that obviously we know you're going to have and that students have had. It is school. All school applies. I mentioned already, everything they do, it is a grade. The lessons are graded and go into the 4th 9 weeks grade book for each of the 4 classes. We do deal with weather, right? And I get it. Parents are concerned, what happens if weather? One thing I will just throw in your head right now, and as teachers will remind you, we are 1 hour and 40 minutes north of here. Don't assume that whatever weather you have, we have. It is drastic. We get parents all the time, are you okay? There's horrible storms, and it's like beautiful and sunny and gorgeous. So it's different. But it is also April in Indiana. On the left-hand side is a picture of the Nature Center. The Nature Center's roof is not white. We get snow sometimes. We're out in snow. We had one year, I think I mentioned it, we had snow at the beginning of the week, and it was 80 degrees at the end of the week. We never know what it's going to be, and it changes all the time. Regardless of what the weather is, we're out in it. If it's raining, we tell the kids, pack a poncho, because you will be out walking around in the rain. Now, if it's a downpour, obviously, they're not going to be just spending time getting drenched and soaked, and if there's lightning, they're not out in it. Camp doesn't let us go out in it. We've got plenty of things to do inside. Part of the choices are there are some lessons that can replace some if rain gets to be a little bit too much of a factor. If there's severe weather, we've had it. We had a tornado one year. It touched down about 4 miles from camp, and we went into shelter. We were going back to our cabins, and we got everybody in about 5 minutes. And it's super quick down, and we've dealt with it. We had an earthquake one year. I didn't say we had a hurricane because there was a hurricane that came up, and the rain that we got was from the hurricane, so I argue we had a hurricane. So we deal with everything. And so does camp. The camp staff that's there, they live at Camp Tecumseh. They're there all the time. You know, it's a year-round camp. They have schools come in. So even though this is something unique for us, it's not unique for them. They deal with every situation that can come up, not just with weather, but anything you can think of that a kid may encounter while at camp. The camp staff has dealt with it. We do take charter buses. Because we pay for them, so that technically is a charter bus. They're big and yellow and say school on them. And so that is how we get up to camp. Medicine. This is something that a lot of parents are concerned about, and I get. We will distribute the medicine to your children. If they take medicine in the morning, when they come in to go eat their breakfast, they will stop and take their medicine. Same thing at lunch, same thing at dinner, and then same thing in the evening before bed. We have that. So we will keep that or we will have a person in charge of all of the medicine, and they will be responsible for distributing that. If there are special things that need to be done throughout the day, we take care of that also. Obviously, if they need an EpiPen and you want them to carry that with them, probably a good idea. We don't want them to be a 20-minute walk from main camp and have to go find their EpiPen. So they'll hang on to that. And inhalers and things of that sort, obviously they carry with them. We'll have other medicine there too. You don't need to send them with like Tylenol or ibuprofen or Benadryl. We will have that there if for some reason they needed those things. But anything that your kid would take, you will send into the school. We will have a medicine drop-off night in April. I believe, did you look at the date, Mr. Snow?
I will.
We'll send it out later because obviously, but it's April 12th will be the night. And we'll be set up for a couple of hours that night for you to bring in any medicine for your kid for camp the next week. And you just bring in what it is you're going to need, and we've got a little system that we'll run through where we know who it's going to and where it's and what time it needs to be brought up. Mrs. Klesch does a lot with medicine, so I'll let her kind of talk a little bit.
When you bring it in, it has to be in the original prescription bottle container. Give to us. No, like we have to see it.
Oh, we have to see it,
We have to
yes.
see
We
it.
don't have to keep
We don't have to keep it. So, I mean, if you've
Yes.
got that prescription of 90, we just need to see it to make sure that we are dosing it right so that we can write it down. That is our requirement. Is for us to write it down, we have to see the original bottle.
All right, so, but yeah, and if you're concerned about things with medicine or medical issues with your child, just talk to one of us. We don't want kids to stay behind. And we have done a variety of different things to help kids out. We understand sometimes there are medical things that maybe you're just not comfortable with sending the kid. That's fine. It's not a requirement to go. We'll talk about that here in just a second, about what happens if a kid does not attend camp. But we've had a kid go who was completely blind. I mean, literally, legally blind, walked with a cane. She was at camp. We've had a kid go who was deaf. We've had multiple kids go who were in electric wheelchairs, and they went around camp. And we have kids sometimes, they end up in a boot the week before. Well, that kind of becomes you and the child's decision on whether to go, but we have them go. We have golf carts that we can zip people around in if they need to, because we don't want a kid to miss out on the opportunity because of something like
We
that.
also had severe food allergies go.
Yeah, we'll talk, we can talk about that real quick now. So in terms of food, they eat 6 meals while they're there. They're gonna bring their own lunch because we get up to camp too late for them to eat lunch that first meal. But then we serve them the next 6 meals. Meals are served family style, so it's not a cafeteria. So they sit at a table with 10 people. There's an adult at every table or 2 to 4 high school counselors at each table. Their tables are gonna be mixed also. They're not made up of the same people, they're with their groups. So they get different people that they get to interact with. That's part of camp also. We don't want them with the same kid every moment at camp. We want them to meet new people. So the tables are one way to do that. But the food comes out family style. So, one of the common meals, they'll do like a pasta bake of some kind. And so the kids will scoop out some pasta and put it on their plate. And if they want more, they scoop out more. And if they want more, they scoop out more. And if it runs out, they go in the kitchen and ask for more. And they eat it just like you would if you were a family of 10. They have desserts at every meal. The lunches, the dinner meals are bigger, chickens or turkey, mashed potatoes, pasta. Lunches are more typical, like maybe a taco or corn dogs or something like that. And then breakfast, they will do bacon or eggs or biscuits, gravy, or pancakes. But at every lunch and dinner, there is a gigantic salad bar. And it's not just like some lettuce, some cheese, and some ranch. It is a big salad bar. There are numerous teachers that all they eat are the salads. And there's pasta typically on there as well, pasta salads. So they can eat, if they don't eat the main meal, don't like the main meal. I always have parents go, what if my kid's a picky eater? Like, well, if they eat salad, there you go. But there's not options. There is a meal that is served, and that's what they get to eat when they're there. At breakfast, they don't have a lunch, they don't have a salad bar, but they have a fruit and yogurt bar, and they also have just the little bowls of cereal that you can get and pour milk on. So there's quite a bit of options for food. If they have a food allergy, I'll tell you, if they have a peanut allergy, don't worry about it. It's Camp Tecumseh, and they deal with school kids all year long, so they do nothing with peanuts of any kind. Both of my boys have peanut allergies, and so I get it, but you don't need to worry. You don't need to tell camp that they have a peanut allergy because they don't do anything with that. They're just gonna go, yep, you're good. But if they have some other kind of allergy that you're concerned about, there will be a link that we will send out. We don't do it now because we're way too far away for camp to worry about that. But in March, we will send a link out and we'll post it on the Fishers Junior High section of camp. We'll all send it in emails. We'll post it on our Canvas page. But there is a link for you to fill out a form that goes directly to the cafeteria manager at Camp Tecumseh. And you'll tell them your kid's name and when they're going, the dates they're going to camp and the school they're a part of, and then you will tell them what your child's food allergy is. They will then take a look at the menu that they have, and if you send it in and they're not ready on the menu, they'll get to you. And they will get back with you and say, nothing to worry about. Or they may say, at this meal, don't have them eat this. Or they may say, okay, that's going to eliminate from this. Let's talk about alternate meals. And they'll work something out with you. But that is with you in camp. We have no control over that as directors. But we will get you the link for that. Because again, they serve kids all the time. So they know the things that will pop up and they're able to handle those things. Anything else about
The only other thing I was going to mention is Ramadan overlaps camp again this year.
Is it for us?
Yeah.
I know it does
think it's
for- I
March
didn't know if it was
22nd
done
to
or
April
not.
21st, I think.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
So it also overlapped last year. So we have our Muslim counselors and our Muslim students eat meals when they need to eat meals. For those unfamiliar, during Ramadan, our Muslim students fast from sunup to sundown. And so, unfortunately, we eat breakfast after sunup and we eat dinner before sundown. So we let camp know, and our Muslim students and counselors eat breakfast before the sun comes up, and they eat dinner after sun goes down. So it's something that we've dealt with before. We don't want that to keep one of our students from going. If our Muslim students need a place to pray, we also do that. We have a prayer cabin for them for when they need to take care of prayer. And so we do our best to accommodate anything that your student might have any problem with. Like Mrs. Clutch was starting to mention, we had a student my first or second year, she was allergic to 5 of the 7 food groups that you can be allergic to. There were like 4 things she could eat. And she went to camp with us as a 7th grader, and she was also a 3-year counselor for us. Wow. So if you're worried about something like that, we've dealt with any food allergy that you can think of. You just got to make us aware of it. And we've also had a student one year with a senior counselor for us. You all might remember I can't remember his name, who found out he was allergic to grass while we were at camp. Showed up, blown up, and he was allergic to grass. And he was a senior in high school. Wow. And so we gave him Benadryl and we moved on. So we've dealt with just about anything that you can think of as far as those kind of things happen, especially with people that have done it for 20-something years. So if it's occurred, we've probably dealt with it.
Yeah, and it's not camping. We clarify that also. If it was camping, I would not go. I'm not a sleep on the ground person in a tent. I understand the fun, not for me. They're in a cabin now. It's not a hotel room. I mean, they are little thin plastic mattresses. The kids will bring their own pillows and blankets or sleeping bags or whatever. But they are in a cabin, has electricity. The cabin's sleeping. There are 14 or 15 people. We have at least 8 parent in every cabin. There are high school students in every cabin. And then we try to leave a bed or 2 open just in case we have to move some things around. And then the rest are junior high kids. So it ended up being in the girls' cabins. For some reason, we always have a lot more female high school counselors than we do male high school counselors. And so there's typically only ends up being about maybe 8 junior high girls in a cabin, and boys it can be a little bit more. But the cabins have their own bathrooms and showers in them. I tell the kids, they're private stalls. You're not getting naked in front of anybody, and any of that. So, but I do stress to them they are going to shower because they will smell horrible. Those of you dads who end up going with us, for some reason, girls' feet doesn't smell too bad. Boy feet. And so we'll teach you the trick of leaving shoes outside the cabins. If not, you're toast for 2 days. It's gross. But they do have cabins, or they do have a place to sleep. They are heated if it's cold. They have windows that can open if it's warmer. So they're not really roughing it too much. The cabins are pretty nice, and some of them are almost brand new. They've built some new cabins recently. Then the other thing we always get is everybody go. Not everybody physically can go. The odds of 480 kids all being healthy on the same day are pretty slim. So, if they get sick that day, they miss. Now, if they get sick, a parent can bring them up the next day if they feel better. If a kid gets sick and has to miss, we'll refund the money, obviously. Nobody has to go. We don't make it a requirement, but not many people stay behind. Each session, maybe 10 to 15 kids stay behind. Because it's curricular, they have a makeup packet of work that they have to do. And so they will go to a room and work on that makeup work that will take the place of the grades they're missing while they're there. They can't go to their classes because we're at camp. So typically everybody goes. Kids always say, do I get to pick my group? No, they can't get into groups in a class of 24 kids. There's no way they're going to make a group out of 400. But as I told my students, some of them already have kind of picked their group this year. We will all ask the kids to give us a few names of kids that they'd like to spend some time at the camp. Now, whether that's in their group or in their cabin or at their table, we'll try to mix those up. We'll also ask if there are any kids that you need to stay away from because we may not know. For all I know, Johnny may have gotten in a fight with Cindy 2 weeks ago, and I don't know that. So, we need to have that information. But we also tell the kids, choices you make today shape your world tomorrow. If you've been a pretty good kid all year long, I guarantee you're going to get a couple kids in your group or your cabin or your table. If you're a kid I can't trust and you've shown me that all year long, I'm probably not going to put a single kid in your group that you asked for. And it may sound harsh, but it makes camp go way easier. If I know you and your best friend together are a terror, then I'm not going to put you in a group together with 2 high school kids, or I'm not going to put them in a cabin for you as a parent to deal with at 12 o'clock at night when they won't go to bed. So we will make sure those are separated out. But most kids end up with people that they have asked for at some point. They are going to meet strangers. Absolutely is going to happen. They're going to have to talk to people they've never talked to before. And like I said, there's going to be boys and girls together in the same groups and at the same tables, not the same cabins. But they do get a say-so in that. And so that is something that we will do. If you go as a parent, you will sit at the same table with your child. You will be in the same cabin with your child, assuming you're the same gender. If not, we call you a perfect parent, because that means we can move you around and put you in any cabin that we need you in. But we try to match you up with that. And then we're all together in the evening anyway. They won't get this information until the week before camp, because it takes forever to build the database and get things split, and we got to match them up with our counselors once we get our counselors hired and build those groups. So the kids will get that information on that Thursday before we go, April 13th. We'll give it to the counselors on their last meeting in April 12th, and the kids will get the information on the 13th, and that's when they're going to find out all of that.
Really quick, this happens every year. There's somebody in this room it's going to happen to. Your kids are going to come home on April 13th, and they're going to be crying and say, I don't know anybody in my group. Yes, they do. They just don't know everybody in their group yet. They will know someone in their group. They will know, within 5 minutes, they'll be like, I don't know anybody. Yes, you do. So don't panic. These guys make the groups. Mr. Sturgeon makes them for the Globetrotters in his group of stars. Mr. Broviak does for his group in the group of stars. Like he said, if they've made good choices, they will know somebody in their group.